If it wasn't for a little film called Deadpool 3 that's coming out this year, easily my number one most anticipated film of this year would be Dune 2. The first Dune was a remarkable achievement. I remember Rob and I were talking about the first Dune, and like, if you read the first books, like, it's hard to imagine how anybody could have made that first Dune better. I don't know that it can be made better than what Denis Villeneuve did. It went on to win 6 Academy Awards, more than any other film that year that the first one came out. Now, of course, it got bumped out of its late 2023, which is good news for all the other Oscar contenders, because it means they don't have to compete against Dune 2 because of the actor strike that was going on. And they have a lot of big stars in this movie that weren't going to be able to go out to promote it. So they bumped it into 2024, and it's coming up soon. And I'm very excited for this. I know Ray's excited for it too.
Yeah, bro.
But he might be a little less excited now that the runtime for Dune Part 2 has now come out. This comes to us from the folks over at CBR who wrote the following. Digital Spy reports that per the Irish Film Classification Office, Dune Part 2 will run for a total of 165 minutes or 2 hours and 45 minutes, 15 minutes shy of 3 hours. This makes it longer than director Denis Villeneuve's first Dune film was clocked in at 155 minutes, as well as David Lynch's original Dune adaptation at 137 minutes. It is also now Denis Villeneuve's longest movie to date. So, couple of ramifications come of something this long. Because now we're not just talking about long. When you start kissing up to 3 hours, you're in a new category of long, right? So, the standard challenges that will come with really long films, how many extra screenings can you get in and all that kind of stuff. And some people may validly ask, well, wait a minute. If somebody was able to make one movie in 2 hours and 17 minutes, why is this being broken into 2 films with a grand total of probably 5 or 6 hours? Well, because Dune is a very thick book.
It's thick.
And there's a lot of story in there.
Thick.
To go over. But I will tell you this. I've always said this. Longer doesn't equal better. Shorter doesn't equal better. Every movie has its own unique runtime. I thought the runtime of the first Dune was perfect for it. I didn't feel like anything was rushed, and I never felt like it dragged. So I'm like, to me, perfect. If Denis Villeneuve was bringing that same notion to here, because now we're getting into all the payoff, right? The first movie was about setting up the conflict. The second movie is now the resolutions of those conflicts. And if he can achieve the same pacing that he had in the first film, then then I'm fine with it. Now, again, we may watch the movie and I may go, yeah, kind of like I did with, listen, I love Killers of the Flower Moon. It could have been 20 minutes shorter. I loved The Irishman. It easily could have been a full 30 minutes shorter.
At least.
Yeah, at least a full 30 minutes
Boy.
shorter. And I like The Irishman.
Oof, magoof.
I
You don't
like that
appreciate
movie.
cinema.
And I'm saying I think it could have been easily 30 minutes shorter. And so we won't know for sure until we watch this. But seeing it's only 10 minutes longer than the first one, and I thought the pacing of the first one was great, I'm all fine with this. It is interesting that it does mark Denis Villeneuve's longest film that he's ever done. And it does, I had an interesting conversation with a Hollywood guy yesterday.
Oh, Hollywood guy.
A Hollywood guy.
All right.
And the Hollywood guy was bringing up an interesting thing. It's like, it feels like one of the great things about the medium of film is that it forces a filmmaker to utilize every ounce of creativity, ingenuity, and storytelling skill to tell your full story in a finite window of time. And the Hollywood guy was basically saying, it feels like some of the bigger directors these days feel like that limitation shouldn't apply to them. And they're making these movies longer and longer and longer and longer, which is ultimately kind of sacrificing a little bit. I don't know that I fully agree. I think there are some situations, again, I didn't think The Irishman needed to be 17 and a half hours long. At least that's what it felt like. But sometimes some movies do require that runtime. So again, we'll see how it works out with Dune. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Guys, it's a brand new year and a lot of people are making New Year's resolutions, things they want to change about themselves. But I've always believed that it's also equally as important to identify the things we're doing well and building on those. And therapy helps you find your strengths so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. I've always believed that nothing impacts our daily performance in our jobs, our hobbies, our relationships like our mental health. And I've also said for a long time that it's about time that we stop just putting emphasis on improving our physical health by getting out to the gym, but also by putting emphasis on improving our mental health as well. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you gotta do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So guys, celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit betterhelp.com/Campea today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea. It's only 10 minutes longer, Chris, than the first Dune was, and I thought the pacing of the first Dune was good. Now, you're one of the few people I know that did not love the first Dune film.
No.
Right? So you hear this. What does that say to you?
10 more minutes of boring tremors? Ooh. Ooh. I'm sorry, y'all. I did not enjoy that first movie. Everyone has told me, though, that where we left off is where all the action and everything
It's where
starts
everything really
happening.
starts. Yeah.
So I can understand this extra runtime on here with that in mind. Supposedly so much is going to happen here. We're going to have so many different characters introduced. I'm in love with who's all cast in this.
Like in the first film, they didn't even introduce us to the Emperor.
Yeah.
They didn't even introduce us to the Princess. They didn't even, there's a whole bunch of characters we haven't even met yet in the first film.
Exactly. So I can understand the extra padding in here for time. I'm hoping that I am more intrigued and more into this film than I was for its first one. But man, and I know I'm in the minority, you guys. Not everything is made for me. Not everything is made for you. We're all going to have different opinions on it. Everyone keeps telling me, too, the pacing of that first film is very on par with the book.
Yeah.
And, as a Lord of the Rings apologist, I'm like, no, you need to take all those paragraphs to describe grass. Get out of here. We've got to take that time. So I can understand it if you love this book, this movie really, really works for you. So I'm going to go into it with an open mind and everything. But man, I'm just not thrilled. This isn't one of my most anticipated films like you guys, but hopefully it'll turn it around for me.
Ray, last night you and I went to go see ISS.
Go see it, everyone.
A movie
Go
I
see
quite
it.
enjoyed, to be honest with you. I thought it was really quite good.
Yeah.
At a spanking, what was it?
135.
At a spanking 135, 95 minutes. No, it was an hour 35, not 135
Yeah.
minutes. 95 minutes. This one's almost double.
No.
How are you feeling about this?
This is a big problem because the first Dune, though I did like the movie after I finished it.
It took you a while
me
to finish
4
it.
or
That's
5
typically
sittings
how
to
people
finish
feel
it.
about movies they like.
It took
It's after
me,
they.
No. It's no, because it took me 4 or 5
Yeah.
sittings
No, I
to,
get it.
to finish it. So I'm not sure how this is. If it goes straight to the action, I might be there. But you know what? I got through Oppenheimer. I was.
You were enthralled
I
with
was
Oppenheimer.
like,
that
this
was
is
a
some
3-hour runtime.
Yeah. I was like, during Oppenheimer, I was like, this is some crazy stuff that happened back then.
And just keep telling yourself that this Dune movie is 15 minutes shorter than Oppenheimer.
You know,
Look
it
at
all
that way.
depends. I guess the pacing in the first one didn't work for me. If I fell asleep, but also I watched it in the comfort of my own home on HBO
Right.
Max. So that probably had to deal with it. Probably my meal, probably the softness of the couch. But when it did finish, I did like it. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm just not sure if I'll make it through. I don't know.
You'll make it through.
No, I'm going to go see it with you guys in theater.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm going to give the movie the respect it deserves. It's just, we'll see. Maybe I'll load up on some sugar,
Yeah, a little coffee
a
maybe.
little coffee.
Some M&M chocolates.
But I'm curious to see this Austin Butler's character. He looks
Oh, yeah, he
menacing.
looked amazing
He looks
in
like a
this.
problem. He looks like their Darth Maul. Like he looks like he's about to shake things up in here. He's
You know what he looks like? He looks like
powder.
Spike Face.
Powder from the movie
yeah,
Powder.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's the character from the horror movie again?
Oh, Hellraiser.
Pinhead.
The
Pinhead.
Pinhead, not Spike Face.
Why am I
Hellhead.
the one who knew
Kind of
it?
looks like Pinhead.
Pinraiser.
Pinraiser. Austin Butler kind of looks like Pinhead, just
It's
minus
just-
the pins.
My question is, this guy is so white. I was like, they never let him out into the sand.
Pinhead so white.
Like he was like, oh, actually, the guy who plays the guy I liked from the first one, the big fatty. What's his name?
That's his dad.
Skarsgård?
Yeah, Skarsgård.
That's his father.
Yeah. I like that character a lot. I can't wait to see what he does from the
Baron
comfort of his
Harkonnen.
own chair.
By the way, that was the big thing to me. I have always said Harkonnen.
Harkonnen.
And I went back and looked at one of the original things, and they pronounced it Harkonnen, but in the new Dune, they pronounced it
yeah.
Harkonnen.
Harkonnen.
Yeah, which is, whichever, it's all fine.
To me,
Anyway,
yeah.
for me, other than Deadpool 3, this is my most anticipated movie of the year. Cannot wait to see this. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.